Good day, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Conversations with AARP. I am Troy Deshabere Schuster, State Director for AARP in the Virgin Islands. We have a timely and necessary discussion ahead. Disasters can strike unexpectedly, leaving persons vulnerable to deceptive practices that prey on their time of need. As the nation's largest social change organization, AARP understands the importance of protecting consumers in times of crisis and has been advocating for increased resources that focus on mitigation in addition to preparedness that will serve all Americans, especially older adults. At a time when older adults over age 65 outnumber those under 18 living in the U.S., it is crucial that we have safeguards in place to help them prepare and respond to natural disasters and extreme weather events, which is why we have invited Matt Padgett, Director of Consumer Protection and Affairs with the Virgin Islands Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs, to today's show to address the topic of consumer protection and disaster fraud awareness. Awareness. Throughout our conversation, we will explore ways to protect ourselves from scams and deceptive practices that are often escalated during and after a disaster, while learning about the efforts of the department in safeguarding Virgin Islands consumers. As we approach the height of the 2023 hurricane season, we encourage you to take note of what is ahead shared today and make sure to safeguard yourself, your family during times of emergencies. And so we welcome Director Paget to the show to discuss with us how we can prepare ourselves for disasters as consumers. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Troy.
Pleasure. You've been on our show before talking about this and similar topics of affairs and protecting ourselves from scams and fraud of all sort. And so today now we're going to focus mostly on the scams and fraud that can arise around natural disasters as we are now approaching the height of the hurricane season. And of course, we're always under the threat of earthquakes and tsunamis. So tell us a little bit, first of all, of what you do within the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs.
Hi, again, thank you for inviting me on. As the Director of Consumer Affairs, I oversee the Consumer Protection Division as well as the Weights and Measures Division. With consumer protection, it's everything from routine complaints about warranty issues with vehicles to pricing issues, stores selling products that either aren't priced or aren't where the stores aren't honoring the prices that are marked. The Weights and Measures Division is a little bit different. We check, maintain the standards for weights in the territory. So stores anything that's sold either by weight or say gasoline sold by the gallon. We ensure that when you pay for a gallon, you're actually getting a gallon.
And that's very important. It's easy for people to be scammed of even a couple of ounces, and over a period of time of buying water or whatever other commodity, ounces add up to pounds, and
Absolutely.
pounds can add up to tons
Yeah.
over an extended period of time. So very important that we have proper regulation of weights and measures and so forth. So um, how is the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs working to protect the rights of Virgin Islands consumers presently?
Yeah. So there's a lot of things we do. The first step to protecting a consumer is education. Making sure that the consumers know what businesses can and can't do is paramount. Information is power. The more informed you are as a consumer, the more power you carry as a consumer. With that said, we receive complaints daily that range from mispriced items to hundreds of thousands of dollars in losses due to contractors and tradesmen not honoring contracts, whatever it might be. Um, Mostly unlicensed, as we've discussed previously, but we still offer those consumers guidance, and how to get assistance in the process of either filing lawsuits in the small claims court or what direction they need to take their complaint. If it's something that borders on the line of criminal, the VIPD, um, they have a white collar crime or VIPD economics crime division does an excellent job. Um, and I just want to highlight the importance of making sure that any contractors, tradesmen, so electrician, general contractors are licensed. You can go on to dlca.vi.gov and check the individual's name to make sure that they're qualified to do the job that you're hiring them to do.
And before we get into talking about contractors and the like, you mentioned a moment ago pricing.
Yeah.
And going along with pricing, I'm always concerned about expired products in stores. Do you monitor that as well? Do you regulate stores with regard to expired products?
Yes, absolutely. So that would come on the weights and measures division side of things. They check. We refer to them as pull dates. They can be labeled as expiration date, best by date, user freeze by date. But basically, if it's on the shelf in a retail store and it has any date on it that says best by, use by, user freeze by, if it's being sold beyond that date, it's a violation, and it can be up to $25 per item. So the violation isn't just if they have 100 items in the store, it's not one violation. It would technically be 100 violations. So they add up quick. So we encourage people, if you're in a store and you see items that are either expired or have a best by date or a use by date that's past date, um, get a hold of our office and we'll dispatch one of our weights and measures inspectors out and take care of that.
And I've often wondered if a store has expired products on the shelf and they pull those products, do those products have to be discarded or could they donate them? Because sometimes it expires today, but it may still be good tomorrow. So do you regulate that as well?
Um, so because we regulate business transactions, and by definition, a business transaction is I go into a store with money and exchange that money for goods or services. If they choose to donate um, food that is going to be expired to a charitable cause, or if they, as the business owner, want to just take it home and use it themselves, we don't we don't regulate anything past the point of when a consumer transaction is going to occur. So as long as they don't sell it past that date, we don't regulate what they do with it beyond that date.
Okay, okay, that's fair enough. That
Yeah,
makes
and
sense.
especially with items in this day and age where you know the price of goods is noticeably increased. Um, if you buy a bag of rice that's on discount at a store and the expiration date is tomorrow, it's not like tomorrow all of a sudden that rice becomes unusable. Dry goods like that you can consume safely beyond the expiration date, especially dry goods like that if you purchase and then put them in your freezer. So, me personally, now this is Matt as a consumer, not Matt as the director of consumer affairs. If I see rice is going on sale, because the expiration date is getting close, I'll buy a couple bags and just stick them in the freezer. And the one thing you really have to watch out for is the little weevils that get in there. But outside of that, yeah, it doesn't hurt to consume some foods after their best by date, especially if the items are frozen.
Yeah, those little weevils living in the warm Caribbean climate.
You know,
We
they
have to
they they
watch
like
them
it
all
here.
the time. Yes, they do, and they thrive year round. So, okay, so now talking about natural disasters, here we are in hurricane season and approaching the height of hurricane season. So I remember when I was a pharmacy owner, every hurricane season, we had to provide a list of our top, I think it was the top 200 or 100 medications. It's been a while since I've run a pharmacy. And we had to provide that list to DLCA, Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs. We had to provide the pricing on each one of those. Is that something that you still do with regard to pharmacies?
Absolutely, and it's not just pharmacies. It's any goods or services that could be related to or have a connection to the recovery response or times during a disaster. So if there's a disaster declaration, we have monthly, you have to submit your price list, whether you're a retail store or, we have contractors that submit their hourly rates. There we have the businesses range pretty much anything related to a disaster recovery or response. And so I have a folder on my computer that has hundreds of stores, price lists, everything from groceries to lumber. Um, and so yeah, so we collect those monthly on the first of the month. If a price changes halfway through the month, usually the retailers will send me an amended version. As long as I get the price list prior to a disaster declaration, that's all that matters. So if there is a disaster declaration, the prices that I've received from the businesses, that's what they're locked in at, and that's what they have to sell their goods for, whether it's batteries or cans of vegetables. They're locked in at the last price that they submitted. So if a disaster declaration comes out today, they can't submit a new price list tomorrow and say, actually, this is what we're going to sell our stuff for.
Now, the term disaster could be broadly defined, and a pandemic is, in a manner of speaking, a type of disaster.
Absolutely.
When the COVID-19 pandemic was on the rise and plaguing us, there was lots of inflation. We saw the cost of all goods going up, especially because of supply chain issues. I remember the commissioner, now former commissioner of the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs, talking to the public about that, et cetera. Now that the pandemic has passed and now it's endemic, so the disaster is over. We have not seen the prices roll back. So,
Right.
what are your thoughts on that? Are we just here to stay? I mean,
If it was one thing I have seen, um, specific, this is the best example. This specific soft drinks, canned soft drinks, instead of selling a 12 pack of 12-ounce cans, now you see a 10 pack of 10-ounce cans or an 8 pack of 12-ounce cans for about the same price. It's referred to as shrinkflation. So they're not selling the same product for a higher price, but they're reducing the amount of product that you get for that price. And if it was just an issue that we faced in the territory, I would say that it's something that was worth looking into. But because it's not local, and it's not even just national. I mean, it's worldwide. The prices of everything are up. Um, I don't have an economics degree, but I'm a consumer just like everybody else in this territory. Um, I can assure the people watching this program today and everybody in the territory, the prices that we're seeing are a result of increased, whether it's pricing from the manufacturer or increased transportation costs. The local businesses are doing as best they can to keep that in check, but their bills have also went up. So it's not just they're raising the prices once it gets to the Virgin Islands. The prices are going up worldwide for all of these consumer goods and in some cases services.
yes, indeed. Prices up all over, and especially when we travel, we see it in the cost of airfare, the cost of
Mhm.
hotel stays, the cost of car rentals. I was on St. Thomas recently, and to rent a car for one day, it's over $100 for an ordinary full-size automobile. 120,
Yeah.
$130 a day in some cases. Pretty amazing.
And
And
being a popular tourist definition is kind of a double-edged sword because um, the way that this administration handled the pandemic and how we were able to remain open and safe, it really helped us navigate through because we didn't see a full stop of people enjoying, what the territory has to offer. But the other side of that is the prices are a little higher than if you go to, the middle of nowhere in New Mexico and rent a car. It's going to be about $40. And,
Hmm.
so we have to take the bad with the good. The economic flow that we saw, the how we sustained our tourism activities, and we're able to get through that. And a lot of people either keeping or finding jobs in the hospitality business. It's kind of what leads to the prices being a little bit more here. So it's not just um, greedy capitalist businesses. There's a lot of factors that play into it, and I know I've spoken personally with a lot of the business owners. They're struggling through these times just like we are.
Yes. Now, I know that in the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs, you have ways for people to report if they feel defrauded or scammed in whatever way. Do you find that people here in the Virgin Islands take advantage of that? Do they report or do they just turn a blind eye and let it go past?
Um, My observation is the consumer issues are probably underreported. I feel like people are willing to overlook a dollar here, $5 there. The majority of the reports we get are significant losses on the consumer's side or with a significant purchase. Obviously, most people's biggest purchases in their life are their homes and their automobiles, and it's not by chance that the most complaints we get are with home building contractors and automotive complaints. So when someone goes into a store and they see a price marked on the shelf, and then when they get up to the checkout, it's like, one of those things that it's almost embarrassing to bring it up, and so they just gut it, pay the price that they're being told, and move on. But our complaint system couldn't be easier. You can file complaints anonymously just for information if you just want to let us know about an issue, or you can give us a call on St. Croix 713 DLCA 3522, or you can call us at 714 DLCA on St. Thomas and make an anonymous complaint. Give us a tip. Point us in the direction that we need to be pointed in. But the online complaint form at dlca.vi.gov is the easiest way to get us a complaint.
Now, as we're moving into, again, the height of the hurricane season, as I mentioned a couple of times already, what kinds of scams do we normally see here in the Virgin Islands leading up to, like immediately leading up to, and then following a hurricane?
Um, so that's a harder one just because it's such a, and it sounds like a, it sounds odd calling it an industry, but scamming is an industry, and there's a lot of people that make their money scamming other people. So the mechanism of the scam changes almost seasonally, but it's like anything else. Just use your best judgment. If you get a phone call saying that you won $2 million and a car, and they need $5,000 as a down payment for taxes and fees, that's probably not legitimate. If you get a call from somebody saying that they're with a government entity, the IRS, FEMA, and there's a warrant out for your arrest, you probably don't have a warrant for your arrest. And it's just one of those things where use your best judgment. If you have any questions about it, just hang up on the individual and call the agency that they're representing, if or falsely representing. Um, the IRS isn't going to call you. The FEMA's not going to call you. Any issues that are going to be handled through that are going to be done either via USPS, or if it's something that you've initiated, you'll get to a customer service representative through that way. Another thing, the IRS will never ask for a payment in an Apple gift card or an eBay gift card or an Amazon gift card. And I know it's you and I can kind of snicker about it, but there's a lot of people that are prompted to go get these gift cards, and once those gift cards are redeemed on the other end, there's no way to get your money back. So, you know, no,
Yeah.
and just to wrap that up, if you are doing any kind of transactions online, credit card is the best. There's a lot of protections built into using a credit card. Don't use a debit card that's connected directly to your checking account, and unless you're 1000% positive about who you're sending the money to, don't send cash, cashier's checks, or money orders to anybody for any transaction. There's a lot of social media marketplaces now where people sell, everything from, car parts to gold chains, and that's just another opportunity to get scammed. So just use your best judgment. Typically, if something feels like it's too good to be true, it's probably not true.
Exactly, exactly. And then so after hurricanes, talk to us a little bit about what you see here in the VI with regard to contractors and those kind of scams.
Um, so I don't know if I necessarily classify it all as a scam. Certainly, some of them are. Some of them do come down with the intent to get money from you to do a job, and no no intent to actually do the job. Most of the complaints that we get regarding disaster recovery are either contractors that just took too much work and spent the money before they got to your job, or they came down with good intentions, ran out of money, or they came down and they never followed through with the licensing process. That is the number one thing that I would tell anybody. Make sure that the person you're dealing with is licensed, insured, and bonded. If they're not licensed to do the work that you need to have done, don't hire them. You might have to spend a little bit more to hire a licensed contractor or a licensed electrician. It is well worth it in the end because you get what you pay for. And when somebody saying, "Yeah, I can do that job," is a lot different than someone saying, "Yeah, I'm legally allowed to do that job." And so you can go right onto our website. I mentioned it a couple times, dlca.vi.gov, and search by business name, by the entity or trade person, whoever you're making entering the contract with, and make sure who you're contracting with is who they say they are. We've had incidents in the past where I won't use the business name, obviously, but business A was being represented to a consumer as the person that was going to do their work, and business A had no idea that this person was going around using their name. So make sure you um, confirm who you're dealing with, confirm who you're hiring, that they're not only licensed but that they're licensed in the Virgin Islands.
And so very important. Again, I wouldn't share this business name, but as you and I were recently discussing, I did hire a local contractor to replace the metal sheeting on my roof, and the work was completed. And when I had another contractor come and inspect it uh, some months later, it turns out that the contractor I hired neglected to put in more than 200 screws. And so if we had a hurricane, my metal sheeting would have probably blown off. And
Yeah,
then came to discover that that contractor wasn't licensed in the Virgin Islands at all. Had a corporate name and presented himself well and his business well, but not even licensed. And yeah, it's so important. So even I, as I sit here doing these shows with you, I learned my lesson the hard way. And now I know that anytime I hire a contractor, I need to either ask them for a hard copy of their business license, or contact your division within the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs and find out,
yeah.
if they're licensed or not, because it could be a really big problem later on.
Absolutely. And going into those situations, like I said, and I think my first response, the more information you have as a consumer, the more power you carry into that contract. And sometimes even if you know the person for 20 years and you consider them a friend, if they're gonna be doing work for you, get it written, put it in a contract, so everybody, and it's to protect the business as well. It's to protect both parties. Get it in the contract how much the contract price is, what services or goods are being supplied for that amount of money, and a completion date. Now, obviously, being where we're at, just geographically, sometimes. things get hung up in the mail, shipping is not the easiest, getting supplies and parts down here, finding labor, all of those can, throw a hiccup in the plans. So, but as long as they're mutually agreed to and open communication between the contractor and the person hiring the contractor, um, it needs to be written and it needs to be clear on what the services are going to cost.
Yes, and a lot of people here in the Caribbean, because of friendships and our culture to a great extent, we do business on a handshake, on a gentleman's agreement. And then when things go bad, then we have nothing to stand on
Right.
when we come before the legal authorities. So yes, we do encourage everybody to get a contract. At least that contractor who did my work, who was not licensed, at least he did give me a contract. And then also, I have documentation of wire transfers. So don't pay cash, right? That's
Yeah.
that's another issue. Don't pay cash.
Yeah.
Your canceled check, wire transfers, all of those things are good, solid proof of payment.
Mhm.
It's proof that the contract was consummated, fully executed in a manner of speaking. So yeah, it's really important to make sure you have all of your documentation orders so that in the event that you have to report something, you have something to stand on.
Absolutely. And I know we're running short on time. I can't believe this. It flew by today.
Yes.
But just a couple of the high points that I wanted to hit, especially with the disaster preparedness. Um, if you're going out and buying a generator, or if you already have a generator installed, make sure it's operational. Check it. As soon as you get it, if you go out and buy one, take it out of the box, fire it up, make sure everything works. The time to learn that that stuff doesn't work isn't when you need it. Flashlights, if you have battery operated flashlights, make sure the batteries are good and don't store the flashlights with the batteries in them. Store them together in a Ziploc bag or something. Um, Especially down here in our climate, corrosion will kill a set of batteries in a flashlight. And just make sure you keep receipts. Receipts is just as good as a contract. If you go out and make a big purchase on a generator or a chainsaw, anything like that, make sure you keep the proof of purchase, the receipts, because if you have problems with that item later, you're going to need that in order for us to pursue a claim on your behalf.
Yes. So all of this is such important information, and we encourage our listening and viewing audience, if you feel like you've been defrauded or scammed in some way, to please contact the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs and report it. Uh, we gave the number earlier, that's on St. Croix 713 DLCA, and on St. Thomas 714 DLCA. So, Matt Padgett, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you on a future episode of Conversations with AARP in the Virgin Islands.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.